an end once and for all, and we will send a message loud and clear that governing is not performance, it's a responsibility. Because this was never a shutdown of the government, this was a shutdown of common sense. And I yield back, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Langworthy. Ms. Leisure-Fernandez, you're recognized.
Well, thank you so very much, Madam Chair, and it's so good to see everybody. Bienvenidos hace tanto tiempo. It has just been way too long, right? But it's been so long that, following up on my colleague, and I will now say friend, Representative Langworthy's comments about what is this about, let's remember how we got here. Because it has really not been that long for the American people, because we were here. Remember, in the middle of the night, just 5 months ago, while Republicans were jamming through a bill that caused a health care crisis. And now we're here because they refuse to solve a major part of that health care crisis, which is those enhanced premium tax credits that are rising, and they're doing it now. The reason we needed to act and act now is because people opened those bills, they opened those notices, and their premiums are going up. I mean, anybody watching, I don't know why people watch rules, but people do watch rules. Raise your hand if you are seeing your health care premiums go up. Because everywhere I go, people are seeing their health care premiums go up. And it's not just because they're letting them expire, it's what you did back in the dead of night, where you rushed through. We had to rush to make sure you gave those billionaire tax credits that are permanent. Those are permanent tax credits, which we had to pass before July 4th, but you couldn't bother to extend the tax credits for working families and businesses before the end of December. And you did it all by raising the deficit. Mr. Roy has passed, he's always talked about that darn deficit, $4 trillion. $4 trillion. You raised our, not just our health care costs, or everything, right? Insurance premiums, groceries, utilities, everything's going up. And you know what's interesting is that those tax credits that Democrats are fighting for are especially important for folks who live in rural and Republican-held districts. And it's not just Marjorie Taylor Greene's adult kids that will see their health care premiums double. It's across everybody's district. Nearly 6 in 10 marketplace enrollees, people who benefit from these tax credits, live in congressional districts represented by Republicans. Chairman Cole, do you know how many folks in your district will see their premiums?
I think I've been educated about that tonight, actually.
And do you remember what it was?
It was about 48,000.
48,000. But you know what's interesting is your health state's insurance commissioner actually thinks that 100,000 Oklahomans could no longer afford health insurance by the end of the year. I'm sure you know Glenn Mulready.
Mulready.
Glenn Mulready. You know what he
Mulready.
said? Mulready. So Glenn Mulready, your insurance commissioner, said he tried to talk to his delegation about how it's not a great idea to have these all just disappear, but maybe do it more gradually or do something. He said, I like this quote. He said, they weren't listening at that time, though. Did you talk to the commissioner?
I have not talked to him about this. We actually talk pretty frequently.
Okay.
He calls at least once a year to every member of the delegation. Again, I know him quite well.
What's interesting is right now we're in this moment where once a year is not enough because those health care premiums are going up. The president of the Oklahoma Hospital Association, he thinks it's even worse when you take into account everything. He said 300,000 Oklahomans will be affected. This is his quote. It's been a long time since we've seen individuals faced with the real challenge of deciding whether or not to take advantage of health insurance for themselves, their families, or go bare. And that's a close quote. And that's the thing about this. These are not just in Democrat districts. And what I love is that we are fighting because we don't care whether you're in a Democrat district or a Republican district. What we care about is health insurance. And that's what this fight has proven, is that we care about whether or not you're going to be able to afford your health insurance. And you know what? When Representative Roy was talking about being a cancer
I wish you
survivor,
cared as much about whether or not my people get paid.
Right.
You know, whether or not the people that are working at Tinker Air Force Base, I wish you cared about them getting paid.
But I didn't ask you a question, Madam Chairwoman.
Well,
I didn't ask
I
you a question.
apologize, but
Thank you.
you
So-
were talking about my district, so
Yeah.
I thought I would
Well,
express myself about my district and
But
what they think.
We've heard you talk about that before, and I have 30,000 people in New Mexico who are federal employees, and I've been meeting with them as well. But I wanted to go to the fact that, you know, Representative Roy, who came and left so quickly, he was talking about cancer and how he's a cancer survivor. I'm a cancer survivor. And he was talking about how the Affordable Care Act is so bad, but you know what? I'm a cancer survivor. And so if it wouldn't have been for the Affordable Care Act, I would not be able to get insurance because there was a pre-existing condition. You know what else I am? I am a woman. And because I was a woman and could have had babies, I would have also been a pre-existing condition. And these are the benefits of the Affordable Care Act. And the list goes on and on about why that Affordable Care Act makes sense. But what we also need to make it be is affordable. And we had a hearing. I'm the chair of the Democratic Women's Caucus. Together with members of the Policy and Steering Committee, we had a hearing. Well, Republicans were on vacation. Well, Republicans were gone. If you don't want to call it vacation, let's be honest, you were not here. But we were. And we held a hearing. And one of the most compelling voices, I mean, they were all compelling. We actually had to take out our tissue because we were crying so much. But one of those voices was Brick from Utah. Brick from Utah, who has a condition that he needs infusions. And the only way he can afford those infusions is through because he gets those tax credits. And he said, I want to work. And he went and talked to his representatives, and he tried to meet with his senators. And he did get to talk to Representative Kennedy, and Representative Kennedy's answer to him was, well, just go on disability. That's not an answer. That doesn't save the American government anything at all, because he wants to work. But you know what? We're going to have an amendment from Leader Jeffries and Whip Clark, I see her here, that's going to have a 3-year extension. And I'm supposing you wouldn't support that amendment. Is that right, Mr.
I don't have a vote on that amendment unless you get it out of here, so.
Right. But we could vote, and we will vote later on a 1-year extension, right? Just a 1-year extension, because we've heard the ranking member talk over and over again about that there are Republicans who want that 1-year extension. So we could do that as an amendment. I'll offer that as well. It's 14 of her colleagues. Do you know, what would a 1-year extension cost us, Chairman Cole?
I have no idea. We have no jurisdiction. This is not,
what would it
with all
cost?
due
Is it about
respect,
23?
can I finish my answer?
Sure.
With all due respect, we don't deal with this on an Appropriations Committee. This is not our jurisdiction, it's not our issue. That's part of the problem here. You're trying to raise it on appropriations bills. This is a Ways and Means or an Energy and Commerce issue. It's not ours. And so to hold up the funding of the entire government over something that belongs in another committee, not ours, and you're basically holding our bills, not you, and frankly, not the House, and not even a majority of the Senate. But our bills have been held hostage over something we have no jurisdiction over.
Thank you, Chairman Cole. You made that point earlier, but as we were here before, when you all passed it, this bill has tons of stuff that's not appropriations. And Ranking Member, I've heard it's about $23 billion for 1 year. That's about what it costs for 1 year. Is that right?
For 1 year, but it was 1 year.
I've asked Ranking Member, sir.
And setting up a bipartisan commission, a bipartisan, to look into this and to address the issues that people may have some concern about. But a 1-year extension, give some relief to the people who are out there. And I quoted Connecticut, you quote your district, and we can quote everyone's district and what's happening to people out there today. And the notion that we can't take this up because the continuing resolution is what the Appropriations Committee does. This is, and we've got 50 pages of this document that deals with health care. If there were the willingness, the political will to solve this, we could do it, and we could do it very, very quickly. And let's not bifurcate continuing resolution to appropriations bills. It is all of one package. And it's incredible to me that we would watch people suffer everywhere to see what's going on with their rising healthcare prices, or their kids that are not going to be able to get the treatment that they need, and that just say, hey, you know, figure it out another way. No, that's not what we're about. And that really is what is so outrageous about the conversation and what is going on. Go ahead.
So, Ranking Member, I think that this is, you're right on point. It's like, we can do this because we do it all the time. This bill is full of things, and we'll get to that whole idea of the payola for those senators in a moment, right? but I'm also struck by the contrast of priorities. The contrast of priorities. Democrats have been talking about the need to address health care, and it's not just since the shutdown. It was in that big, beautifully bad bill of theirs. Health care was key, and they could fix it now. But it's the priorities. $40 billion, I would think that's what is proposed to be sent down to Argentina.
Yes.
Chairman Cole, is that,
Right.
do you recall that?
No, I don't.
It's $40 billion.
$40 billion.
$40 billion. So that seems to be a priority. They will send $40 billion to Argentina instead of spending $23 billion to provide health care to Americans, and all we're getting is a pinky promise that they will address that, but they won't even support a 1-year extension, a 3-year extension, or a permanent extension. But let's get to the stuff that's not. Let's get to the stuff that is not probably appropriation, but what has been stuck in this bill that would provide those senators. It's like a payola. Like, what kind of bribe is that? Who gets 500,000 of violations? And that's why we're saying it's maybe $8 million. Senators are going to get $1 million, a couple of million, $500,000, and we're not going to give money to help a father pay for his health care? Is that what's going on here, Ranking Member?
Speaking of what doesn't belong in an appropriations bill, this doesn't belong in an appropriations bill. It's really, we have a review by an ethics committee that says that they can be paid off. We had it's just outrageous what's happened here. But in terms of the process, where it so violates what appropriations has done, it normally is the process where you get the 4 people involved that are the chairs and ranking members in the House and Senate, and you have a sign-off on the bills. First of all, that did not happen this time as well, and my Republican colleagues, the Senate, the Senate chair, they just went forward and posted the bills without having sign-off. Then this is secretly put it in the bill at the last hour with no one, including the House chair or ranking member, or I don't believe the ranking member on the Senate side. This was a sweetheart deal that was put in there that rips off the government and the people of this country.
And Americans think that the system is stacked against them.
And it
when
is.
Republicans support giving payouts to senators in the millions of dollars, they can see why. But I'm going to give my Republican colleagues on this committee the opportunity to say this is not right. I will be offering an amendment to strip that entire section from the bill. We'll see what kind of courage the Republicans on this dais have. Now, I am the last Democrat to be able to ask questions, so I wanted to just give the ranking member an opportunity to see if there was anything else she wanted to raise in response to some of the other issues that...
No, I thank the gentlelady very, very much. It's really been really incredible. And first of all, you know, everybody here is supportive of our veterans and so forth, and to if we really wanted to do something about taking care of our veterans and their health care, we would have, and you would have, dealt with the $51.7 billion in advance funding for our veterans through the Toxic Exposure Fund, which was done, by the way, in the Fiscal Responsibility Act several years ago, which we've done, and the ranking member of Milcon VA is here. And yet, there is advance money for medical care, but for the Toxic Exposure Fund, the answer is no. Why? You want to help veterans? This leads to me, when I see that there's no commitment on the Toxic Exposure Fund. And what we do and what we have done in the past, it really is, we have done advanced funding over the years. And we did, and as I mentioned earlier in my comments, Ranking Member Wasserman Schultz, Chair Judge Carter, a full day of negotiations. Quite frankly, it was one of the bright, shining spots of bipartisanship we had in going through the appropriations process, but that has been left out of this bill. Do you really care about veterans? Let's make sure they're taken care of, because they get caught in the crosshairs of this madness that we are currently involved in. I would also like to just say that I'm really tired and, quite honestly, fed up. It is a lie, it is misinformation that we had to reopen the government in order for there to be SNAP benefits to go to families. $6 billion in a contingency fund, which we voted for. Read the bill, understand what you did in the bill, and know what you did. You passed it, and it was the president who decided he did not want to spend that money to feed people. He's taken it all the way to the Supreme Court to deprive people and kids. It's 16 million kids. It's 8 million seniors. It's 4 million people who are disabled and 1.2 million veterans. You want to care for your veterans? Care for your veterans? Make sure that that money in that contingency fund is outflowing tonight and going, and not let them claw back, telling states, get the money back that you have given out. What is wrong with this picture? And I just say, if Mr. Roy were here, I would tell him, which he needs to understand. He needs to understand. He talked about a buyout. The buyouts were offered using money that government simply did not have. They signed contracts, buyouts with money that the Congress had not yet appropriated. That is unlawful. There is a lawlessness about this administration, and particularly where it affects the Appropriations Committee. They have been doing it from day one, and I love being on the Appropriations Committee as chair, as ranking member, and by God, I'm not going to give up one single bit of power that the Appropriations Committee has in order to be able to carry out our mission, and that is the $1.7 trillion that we deal with every single year for the services that the American people depend on. That's what we should be doing, and the power of the purse. Talk about a clean bill? No clean bill. They took back $410 billion from that earlier budget, and nothing is said about allowing them to continue to get away with this. An unelected bureaucrat, Russ Vought, who has the power to take that money away, which Tom Cole and myself and the other appropriators said we were going to pass because it makes a difference to our constituents. It is really unbelievable lawlessness that has been pervasive since January here, and that's something that we ought to really take back for the Appropriations Committee, but for the good of the American people. And the health care piece is absolutely the center of what this shutdown, yes, has been about, because that is a priority and it needs to be. Why? The last point I will make to you is, why now? Why now? Because the enrollment period is underway. It started November 1st. Why now? Is because everybody's got the letter in their hand saying $2,000 a month, my insurance is going up. I can't afford $24,000 a year. Why now? Because by December 15th, they must make the first payment. so that they can have health care insurance on January 1st. That's what we are fighting for, and I'll continue to fight that battle every step of the way, despite what the United States Senate did yesterday.
Thank you very much, Ranking Member, and thank you for allowing me to ask that last question. And it is indeed a contrast in priorities, prioritizing ballrooms and your bathroom, and whether you have marble or gilded gold, or providing the food
and
that
health
people
care.
need.
Food and health care.
To not distribute the money that Congress already sent over. And we should have had every Republican yelling at the White House to release those funds, and I did not hear them.
This is
And I don't
true
know,
colors
Chairman,
coming out.
I don't know, Chairman,
Food
if you
and
went,
health care.
if you went to your food banks, but we did, and it wasn't performative, Mr. Langworthy. It was because people are hungry, and that money was there, and Trump refused to release it. And that is a disgrace. It is immoral. It is against every principle of faith and clarity that I have ever learned. And with that,
Thank you,
Mr.
Ms.
Chair, I
Leisure
yield back.
Fernandez. Mr. Scott, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too intend to talk about the Senate provision that they put in last night. I found out about it sometime around 9 o'clock. And I'll just be honest with you, Mr. Cole, I represent a lot of